Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia Hendrickson. If you have happened across this video and haven't seen the rest of my videos for the Lumia Zip Up Hoodie, go ahead and click on my channel, find the playlist for the Lumia Zip Up Hoodie Sew Along, and you can find all the videos to make this fun hoodie by Greenstyle Creations. Today is actually the last video, and we will be making regular cuffs and also this fun little thumbhole cuff. It'll be a pretty quick day for you. This is day 6 of our sew along. We have one more day to get completed photos into our post in the Greenstyle Facebook group. If you don't belong to that Facebook group and would like to enter for prizes, click the link in the show notes and I will make sure to direct you to that group. Join the group and just post a picture or a collage of your completed Lumia hoodie and you will be entered for one of 5 prizes from Greenstyle Creations and also Olga's Knit Closet, who is kindly sponsoring this sew along. And also you can put extra entries for prizes in Instagram by posting your creation on Instagram and using the hashtag GSLumia and also the hashtag Lumia SAL, as in Lumia Sew Along. So we will choose 5 random winners at the end of the sew along in a couple of days, and hopefully you will be one of them. If you have any questions, leave notes in the comments, on my blog, or in the Facebook group, and I or someone in the group will be happy to help you. Happy sewing, and yay for finishing your Lumia! To make the regular cuffs, you take one of the cuff pieces and you fold it in half and then just pin along this angled edge. And we will stitch just along this edge here. I'll go ahead and use a stretch stitch. Then we'll fold it in half to make it right sides out. You can also do that step with your serger. I like to push the seam open since I used my sewing machine and make sure they're open with a clip, and then finish turning the whole thing in half. So now I have the right side of the fabric on the outside and the right side of the fabric on the inside as well. I have a clip on the seam already. I'll just go ahead and mark the opposite end. Okay, now we take our sleeve on our jacket and we simply slip that onto the sleeve. So I have the seam of the sleeve down here on the bottom. I'm going to put the sleeve of the cuff down on the bottom to match it. And I'll pin them together. So there's the sleeve seam. I'm going to use my fingers to open it up and pin all of those seams together. And then I'll match up pins on the top. So now I have all of these raw edges lined up together, and I'll just stitch around the whole thing. Again, using serger or a stretch stitch on your sewing machine. And you just want to make sure that as you're stitching, they all stay lined up. Then you just turn that cuff out and voila, you have a beautiful sleeve cuff. Now we'll begin working on the thumbhole cuffs, which are really cool. To start, we're going to do some work at the ironing board. So I have here my 3 thumbhole cuff pieces, and as you can see, I've drawn some lines on them. And what those are just lines to help me with ironing and hemming, and they are 1 inch. So what I've done is taken my acrylic ruler and just drawn a line there. And the reason I drew them 1 inch is because that helps me when I fold it over to get that perfect 1/2 inch seam. So I'll start by giving them all a quick spritz with some spray starch, and then we'll just begin ironing. Now, I'll start by ironing the 2 pieces that we're going to hem, which I've marked with a little arrow here. So we'll be actually hemming this little bit right here. Okay, and then on this other piece, we'll be hemming the side that has the notch. So you don't need to draw those little lines. You could just fold them in and look at the little notch on the fabric. But to me, the line helps to make sure that I fold it over evenly all the way across. All right, and then these other bits that I'm ironing, this is to create a memory hem. That's going to be hemmed later on in the process, but if I iron it now, then when I go to hem the cuff later on, it'll be much easier. It's going to be in a round already, so it'll be like this, and then you'll fold it under and hem it. If you already have that memory crease in it, that's what it's called, memory crease, then it'll just be that much easier to fold it. So that little bit right there is a memory crease, and also this piece right here. And this strategy for drawing the lines, it's helpful also when you're hemming skirts. I know lots of people eyeball it, and that's great too if you are comfortable eyeballing it. This just helps to get it more perfect. All right, so here are the 3 pieces. Okay, and here is, these are our 2 memory creases, and I'll probably hit them up with the iron a little bit more off camera. And then these 2 right here are going to be hemmed right away at the start of creating our thumbhole cuffs. The only other thing I want to make sure to mention is to be aware of your fabric. This is cotton French terry, and so it can stand a lot of heat with the iron. If you're using something synthetic like polyester, be careful that you don't melt your fabric. So I've taken my 2 pieces and stitched the hems with my cover stitch machine, and now we're going to baste them together. So we'll take the more triangular piece, the lower piece, and overlap it on top. And you're basically overlapping exactly those 1/2 inch hems. And then we're just gonna do a quick basting stitch right there. So now they're basted together and they're 1 piece. And you can see my memory creases there, and it's opened back up. And then I have my other cuff piece and my memory crease right there, opened back up. So now, push this aside. We are going to pin the 2 pieces together. All right. So you'll see the 2 memory creases go together, and then we're going to pin it all the way down this side. Go ahead and pin the other side at the same time. And for this step, I will use my serger. Surprise! I actually have a serger. Now that we've stitched all the cuff pieces together, we are ready to hem the end of it. So you can see here's the opening and my memory crease is still in place. But since I used my serger, I can't fold the seam open. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually gonna, right there at the memory crease, I'm gonna snip into my serger seam. And what I wanna do is snip as close as I can, but not getting the needle threads. So once I've snipped into it, I can then separate it and fold the top part to one side and the bottom part to the other side. And that way, my hem doesn't have a super thick lump of serger seam folded on top of itself. Because if I didn't do that, I would fold that way and then I'd have 2 layers of seam, which would be very thick with this French terry particularly. So again, just snip. Be careful not to get that left needle, and then separate them and then just fold over right there. Okay, and then because I have that memory crease, the rest of it folds over very easily and I can easily hem the cuff. And because I'm stitching it around, I don't need to use that 1-inch starter piece. That I used in the other steps. Once I start getting back to the beginning, I can clip these threads, Okay, so our thumbhole cuffs are done and they are ready to be attached to our jacket. Now, the hemming steps that you saw me do on the thumbhole cuffs, just as like on most other hemming steps, you can use a stretch stitch on your sewing machine or you can use a twin needle as well. So here is the thumbhole cuff. And we'll go attach to the jacket now. When it comes time to attach your thumbhole sleeve cuff, you just want to make sure that you have the thumbhole bit in the right spot so that when you put it on your arm, that the opening is where your thumb is naturally going to be on your sleeve. And where that is just to the front of this bottom seam. So you have the one seam on your sleeve and this is the front of the sleeve. So a good way to find that is to lay your jacket right side up. And then so you'll have the front of the sleeve facing upward and the seam down at the bottom. So what you want to do is line up the bottom of the thumbhole cuff with that seam. So I've put 2 pins to indicate where I want the cuff lined up with the seam. And then I can just flip my cuff inside out and line up those 2 pins. And the cuff and the sleeve opening should line up pretty much perfectly. Then you'll just take this over to your machine and stitch it with a stretch stitch on your sewing machine, or I will be using my serger. This French terry, it loses a lot of like fluff bits, so I want to go ahead and use my serger on it. You saw me use my sewing machine a lot on the other one, and that was a knit that doesn't fray or doesn't lose any fluff, so I didn't worry too much about finishing my edges. If you still feel a little iffy about where you're supposed to line up that thumb hole opening, go ahead and pin it and baste it with your sewing machine and try it on and just make sure it feels right. At this point, you can just do a top stitch along here if you like. I'll try mine on and see how I like it, but I'll probably leave off that top stitch. So how did day 6 go? And how did the whole sew along go? Let us know in the comments or head on over to the Greenstyle Facebook group and let us know on the day 6 sew along post. Just search #LumiaSAL to find all our posts for the week. We look forward to hearing from you.